Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Sheena Siglos, and today I'll be presenting the findings of a survey conducted on tax perception. We'll explore how people feel about tax compliance, the efficiency of tax authorities, and the impact of factors such as income, community influence, and government transparency on taxpayer behavior. The insights we'll uncover are based on data from 36 respondents and provide a snapshot into the broader societal attitudes toward taxation. Let's begin with our objectives. This presentation aims to understand how individuals perceive taxation and tax authorities, examine what drives or hinders tax compliance, analyze how various socioeconomic and governance factors influence taxpayer behavior. Ultimately, these insights can inform better policy, improve tax administration, and enhance voluntary compliance.
Before diving into the findings, let's quickly go over the methodology. The data was collected via a structured questionnaire, with 36 individuals participating in the survey. The questionnaire was designed to capture both quantitative and qualitative responses, covering demographics, tax behavior, perception of government and tax authorities, and social influences. While the sample size is small, the responses give us valuable indicative patterns and trends. To better understand the responses, we need to consider who our respondents are. Among the 36 participants, the majority fall within the 26 to 40 age group. Most have tertiary education, indicating a generally literate and informed sample. Income levels vary, with a large portion earning above 30,000 pesos per month. These demographics are important, as attitudes toward taxation often vary by age, education, and income. Now, let's explore the attitudes toward tax compliance. Interestingly, a majority of respondents believe paying taxes is a civic responsibility. However, many also express skepticism about whether their taxes are used effectively. There's a strong sense of conditional compliance. People are willing to pay taxes, but only if they trust the government to use the funds responsibly. This reflects a key insight: tax compliance is not just about laws or enforcement, but about trust and perceived fairness. When it comes to tax authorities, responses are mixed. About 40% believe tax authorities are doing a satisfactory job in terms of collection and enforcement. But a notable portion also sees them as inefficient or corrupt. This perception directly affects compliance. If people distrust tax officials, they are less likely to pay willingly. It also points to a need for reforms in transparency and taxpayer services. Income level is another major factor. Low-income earners often feel overburdened by taxes and may not see the benefit of paying. In contrast, higher earners sometimes have more means and motivation to evade taxes through loopholes or informal practices. In our survey, those with mid to high incomes were more critical of tax rates and more skeptical of government accountability. This shows that economic status can shape both ability and willingness to comply. Let's talk about social influence. People don't make tax decisions in isolation. Our survey showed that individuals are more likely to comply when their peers or community members do. This peer effect is powerful. If someone believes that others around them are evading taxes, they're more likely to do the same. Conversely, if tax compliance is seen as the norm, people tend to follow suit. This suggests that public campaigns and community engagement can boost compliance significantly. Government transparency is perhaps the most critical factor we found. Respondents consistently pointed to a lack of transparency in how taxes are spent. When asked whether they believe their tax money is used for the public good, most responded negatively. This lack of faith discourages compliance and fosters resentment. To change this, governments must show clear, visible results: roads, schools, healthcare, funded by taxes. It's not enough to collect taxes, there must be accountability and communication. Here's a visual summary of correlations observed in the data. For example, there's a strong positive correlation between perceived transparency and willingness to pay taxes. There's also a negative correlation between perceived corruption and tax morale. These relationships suggest that improving governance can have a measurable effect on tax compliance. To summarize the key themes, people are willing to pay taxes, but only when they trust the system. Income and social environment influence behavior significantly. Perceived misuse of tax revenue is a major barrier to compliance. Public perception is shaped by visible government performance. These themes reinforce the idea that taxation is as much about governance and social contract as it is about finance. What does this mean for policy? Several takeaways emerge. Tax authorities must improve transparency, public dashboards, spending reports, and community involvement help. Tax education should be enhanced to address misconceptions and inform citizens about their rights and obligations. There should be targeted efforts to build trust in low-compliance communities. Finally, enforcement must be fair and consistent, visible punishment for evasion, balanced by accessible services for taxpayers. Of course, every study has its limitations. The sample size is relatively small, only 36 respondents, which limits generalizability. The survey may have biases in who responded, more educated individuals were overrepresented. And some questions relied on self-reporting, which may introduce inaccuracies. Still, even with these limitations, the patterns we observed align with broader literature on tax perception and behavior. In conclusion, tax perception is shaped by multiple, interlinked factors, personal, social, and institutional. For policymakers, this means that improving tax compliance requires more than enforcement, it demands trust building, education, transparency, and community engagement. The public is not unwilling to pay, they are unwilling to be exploited or ignored. By investing in fairness and visibility, governments can foster a culture of voluntary, sustained compliance. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd now like to open the floor to any questions, comments, or thoughts you might have. Let's have a conversation. What are your reactions to these findings? Do they reflect what you see in your community or workplace?